Welcome to Sassy, Soulful, and Sensitive, a podcast for us introverts, empaths, and highly sensitive people. I'm your host, Cam Swell, and together we are going to explore what it's like to build an empowered life with our sensitivities. We're learning how to trust our intuition and trust our voice. Let's dive in. What's up, Buttercups? How you feeling? All right, so we have sprung forward with daylight savings time recently, and we just celebrated the spring equinox. So I want to ask you a question. Where are you with those January goals you set? Because if you started with like really fiery energy and then it just kind of like lost steam, like you're not alone. That is so common. And it just is what it is, right? We're not going to fight it. We're not going to shame ourselves. None of that. But today, I do want to explain why spring is the perfect time for HSPs to take action. March and April, the springtime in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, is ideal for starting to achieve our dreams and take action and this bud and this growth and all the goodness. So many highly sensitive people, we try to set big goals in December and in January, hoping to kind of capitalize on that fresh start, new energy, which nothing wrong with that, right? You do you, boo. But before modern calendars, people followed like nature cycles. The new year didn't begin in January. It began as springtime. Like winter naturally tells our bodies to rest and reflect rather than jump into new projects. So if you feel tired or burnt out in January, like it may have just not been the right time as part of your natural rhythm. It wasn't ready to get going on some of these things. And so you might not have been prepared for such a big leap. And this is exactly why springtime is the best time to start doing this. Because as winter fades, spring brings that renewed energy. Like the sun warms the earth, you get that fresh smell of soil and grass, and it just kind of like awakens your senses in a completely different way. And so you might feel a sudden burst of hope or an itch for a change, or like just get a little antsy, right? Spring fever, if you will. And this is kind of like that natural clue that tells you it's time. It's time to revisit and relaunch those goals. So 3 quick tips that we'll dive into a little bit more, but just right off the bat, it's like, okay, make sure that you're listening to your inner voice. Trust that feeling of hope and renewal. Clear out the old to welcome the new. Dust off those forgotten plans. Start fresh, like spring cleaning. It's a thing. Perhaps if you're being called to do so, like do it. Whether that's physically in your space or just like in your mind or brushing off girls, whatever it is, right? And then third is embrace the energy shift. Like notice how that lighter, warmer days, like they just boost your motivation. And I recently saw a video where this couple was like, come sunflower with me. And they just like stood in the sun, like face to the sun, and just like felt the warmth. And it was like the most wholesome thing. And do that, because I highly recommend doing that. I try to do it every single morning, but I've never heard it called sunflowering. And that was just like a delightful thing. But it's like, yeah, relish in that energy. So as we're talking about goals, I also want to talk about how we as HSPs can choose the right goals. And part of me, as I even say that, I'm like, okay, there's no right or wrong goals, which correct. I really don't believe there are any right or wrong goals, but I do think there are aligned goals versus not aligned goals. And so when you're choosing the right goals that match your true interests, they match your values, like those are the key things for you as a sensitive soul. So you might be interested in doing or having something, but you might not follow through. And this kind of brings up the question. It's like, okay, are you interested or are you committed? And I think that like that concept, this is not a concept I created. I'm pretty sure I heard it from Jody Moore, who is another amazing life coach. But like, it's, are you interested or are you committed? Because true commitment means aligning with your values, your sensitivities, and your capacities. So I want you to ask yourself when you're thinking about a goal, and I want you to think about, okay, how interested am I in this goal and the steps to get there? And how come? And like, just take a second to kind of reflect on that. And then I want to offer you a second question. How committed am I to taking the necessary steps, even when it feels hard or uncomfortable? And how come? So I'll give you an example. Like, one client that I have, like, she has her own coaching business, and she wanted to dive into social media marketing for her business. But like, she kept getting distracted. She didn't want to do it. Like, there just wasn't any true motivation there, but it's like, this is what I see other people doing, and like, this is like how it's done. And in our conversation, she realized that her real passion for connecting with people is face to face. It's not on social media. And so like, she shifted her focus and she began meeting people in person through her kids' school and neighborhood, and like, her client base grew, and she now has more clients than ever before. So this is a really good example of like, hey, I'm interested in doing social media because this is what I see that's happening, and like, so the social media marketing, this is what I see happening, and this is what like, I'm told that works, and like, it looks really cute and like all of that good stuff. But then it came down to, how committed am I? And the truth was, she wasn't committed to that. And it didn't have to be a problem. In fact, it wasn't a problem once we were able to figure out what aligned with her better. So another aspect of goals that I really, really, really want to talk about, it's mental rehearsal. And I want to talk to you about how mental rehearsal can help HSPs achieve our goals. Because imagine what success looks like and feels like before you actually take action. This is just a crucial part of what we do in accomplishing goals. Like, this mental rehearsal, this visualizing each small step and overcoming obstacles that you potentially foresee, like, it can kind of turn that fear, that trepidation, into excitement, into motivation. And so, like, when you think about mental rehearsal, here are some questions for you to think about. What does it feel like to take each step? What obstacles can you anticipate? How will it feel to actually work through and overcome those obstacles? And then what will it be like when you go through all those steps and you accomplish your big goal? Like, it's very much like tapping into your future self who has already achieved your desired result. And this is where you get to use your rich inner life and emotional superpowers to really fuel your progress. Like, I used to dread networking events. I was just like, people. I don't want to. It's a lot. I feel awkward and just, I don't know what to say and all of that stuff. And I remember going to a specific event, and I knew I was going to meet people, and there were going to be a lot of people, but it was the first time that I'd met some of them. And I did this mental rehearsal, and I was like imagining what it would be like to walk into that space, to have people wanting to talk to me and me wanting to talk to them and like be interested in them. And like, okay, what does that feel like when there's a pause? And, oh, okay, the pause isn't a problem. Like, I'll just let it go. Or I can see myself being interested in asking a question. Well, like, that's just what I do, right? Ask questions. And like, that shift in mindset made such a huge difference because it made every conversation easier and more enjoyable. And I remember going to that event, and like, yes, I was still a little nervous, but I went to the event and it was just like, oh, yeah, this isn't bad. Like, I can totally do this. This is not a problem. I'm great. Let's talk. Let's connect. It was fantastic. And that is the power of mental rehearsal. So now I kind of want to talk about some goal setting techniques that I have found very, very helpful for highly sensitive people. And these, like, I'm going to offer 3 separate ones. And these are kind of like 3 simple methods that really work well for our sensitivities and kind of tap into our very unique superpowers. So the first one is called a sensory goal map. And this is where you kind of use your senses to create clear and a motivating vision. So from a visual perspective, it's like creating a vision board, like whether that's physical or a digital collage or whatever, right? But it's like a visual representation of what your goal is and the feelings of overcoming those obstacles, those types of things, right? And then auditory, like make a playlist that like boosts your energy, make a playlist that resonates with a specific emotion that helps you basically gear up and continue to move forward and progress in that goal. And then think about like the tactile, the feeling, right? Like hold an object that reminds you of your goal. So I have a bowl of crystals here on my desk, and I love doing that. Like I'll be sitting in a session and I'll pick up a stone that represents like both grounding and openness. And like that's something that helps me visualize and just kind of step into that space, right? It's this tactile feeling that reminds me what my purpose is in what I'm doing in that moment. And then another one is your olfactory sense, right? This is your smells. This is where aromatherapy comes in. Like choose scents that inspire you, whether that's incense, oil, it's burning a scented candle, it is a aroma diffuser, whatever it may be, right? But just kind of tickling into that olfactory setting that helps you move towards your goals. And then taste, right? Enjoy a special treat when you're working on your goal, or to help get you in the mindset to work on the goal, or hell, even to just reward yourself after taking action. Because sometimes we just want that little reward. Like, yeah, I'm going to have chocolate every day to celebrate that I didn't binge eat all day, right? Yeah, it's something that I'm going to do. No shame. So just remember, like, your memory and your emotions are very, very powerfully linked to your senses. And so utilize them. Use that deep feeling, that deep, like, sensory experience that you have as part of your goals, right? So that's the sensory goal map. Method number 2, or technique number 2, if you will, is the micro step method, right? It's just these small steps for very, very big changes. So break your goal into tiny, manageable steps. This is not new. It's not revolutionary, but it is a good reminder, right? Like write down what your goal is and then choose the smallest task you can think of. Like I want you to think of an action or a task that takes under 5 minutes. Complete that one task. That's it. And then celebrate the hell out of yourself. Like if it takes 30 seconds, I still want you to take 30 seconds to celebrate it because the celebration is huge. And then it's like, okay, then you can move on to the next step. So if your goal is to, let's say, clean your home, like you just want to be more cleanly, more tidy, whatever, like begin with something like sorting the mail. That pile of mail that's sitting on your counter, start there. Or focus on putting one item away at a time. It's like that one small step leads to another. And it's kind of like that, the irony of a checklist, right? It's like, oh, I already accomplished something, but I'm going to add it to my to-do checklist anyway, just so I can cross it off and feel good about it. Right? It's kind of like that same type of playing with your brain of, oh, I did one step. Oh my God. And that was so easy. Like this thing that I've been putting off for weeks literally took me less than 5 minutes to do. That thing that's been sitting on the counter forever literally takes me 5 minutes to like find a home for it and put it away. And I've been avoiding it for weeks. So there's so much power in those small steps. The third technique is an energy alignment technique. So it's really about working with your natural energy levels. So think about tracking your energy at different times of the week, and then identify when you are most awake. Identify when you're most activated, when you're tired. Like, do goal related work during those peak times where you're like, yes, I feel energized. Like, yeah, let's do that. And then plan your regular breaks to recover. So really get in tune with your own system in what is kind of like the optimal schedule. And then like take it a step further. And like if you're very, very ambitious, take it a step further and kind of evaluate for this for the whole year. Like I remember it was I'm looking at the wall in my office because I still have it on my wall. But I remember tracking all of 2023, and like I was just kind of tracking my energy levels from kind of like this macro level of like, hey, how was my energy for the day? And like it was really insightful. It was interesting to kind of see the patterns of like certain months and certain days. So highly recommend really taking note of where your energy levels are and aligning your work with those energy levels when you can. And because yeah, I've noticed like there are certain times of year like when my mental health needs some extra TLC, like such as the winter blues, if you will. Like, and during these time, like my productivity, like it's slower. It takes more time to manage my mind and get excited and kind of cultivate the emotional stuff that I've been talking about. And it's like, okay, knowing this, like this insight helps me plan my year and like just helps me balance like that business and personal life. So now I want to move into like how we can kind of create our own personal goal setting system, because there's some things that are really, really important. The first of which is like trusting your unique path. Because in a world full of advice, there's so much fucking advice out there. Like, it's so easy to fall into someone else's plan. Someone else has the right answer. Someone else has the better way. And what I want to propose is your way is unique. It might seem slower. It might seem messier. But honestly, it is your unique path that truly fits you. It's kind of like if you were to, let's say, listen to this podcast and you picked out, like, first time listen through, you picked out this awesome nugget, right? And then let's say you revisit it again and it's like, oh, you pick out another nugget. Oh, but this other piece, like, it doesn't resonate in the same way anymore. Like, that's why our unique path is messy, right? We pick up the things that are useful and like things that, like, it could be a really good gold nugget, but it might not be the gold nugget for the right time. So, like, trust that your path is unique and that you have the answers. Because let's talk about like when to adapt others' ideas. Because like it is absolutely okay. Like I can hear like many of you being like, okay, but like other people, like, well, I don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? Totally get it. Like there's so much that we can learn from the collective. Like it's okay to learn from those who have succeeded. Like just take what feels right for you and leave the rest behind. Because this is not about reinventing the wheel. It's about adapting it to your needs. It reminds me of that meme of like, there's like a circle wheel, right? And it just kind of like shows the path. And then there's a square wheel. And like that path in its spinning motion looks very, very different than the circle wheel. And that's kind of how I want you to think about it. It's like, yeah, we are all very uniquely different. And so if there's not these universal ways to accomplish goals, like, what's your way? What can you take from the circle and adapt into your square? So, for example, time management. There's so many time management methodologies out there, yet why do people still struggle with it after they've learned all of these methods? Like, I know people who have taken course after course after course after course, and they're still struggling with their time management. Why is that? It's because they haven't identified the helpful aspects of these systems and like adopted those and like left the rest, right? They need to integrate them in a way that really works for them. And that takes experimentation. So the other aspect of this is seeking guidance without losing your own voice. Because sometimes like you might want like the clear instruction. You might want someone to just be like the sentence that's coming to mind is like, just tell me what to fucking do, okay? Like, I just want to succeed. I just want to be happy. I just want to blah, 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 blah. Like, just tell me what to do. You've done it. And what I want to offer is like, instead of looking for a guru, look for a guide who respects your sensitivity and helps you trust your own inner voice. And so as you're thinking about that, I want you to think of these two questions. Does this advice honor my experience? And does it allow me to be myself? Like, those are two very important questions to ask yourself as you are like working with someone or finding someone to help support you in your goals. Like, the truth is, like, if I could sum all of this up into one sentence, it's like, trust your gut and your heart. Your mind will want to lie to you. It will like to logic all of the things, which, yes, we love that aspect of ourselves, our intellectualization, our logical mind, all very good things. And it needs to be followed or preceded with our gut and our heart, our intuitive instincts. Then we can logic it. Right? Trust your gut and trust your heart. So I might go into more depth into this next piece, but I think it's really important. So I just want to kind of mention it here. But it's like I want to talk about how to build a sensitivity strength inventory, because sometimes our sensitivities don't feel like strength. They don't feel like superpowers. They just feel like burdens. And so it's important to start reframing our sensitivity, right? So I want you to list times when your sensitivity led to a good decision. Like, notice how your body feels when you're right, or like it's a good decision for you, and then record things like supportive environments and supportive people. Like, just naturally, without putting in a ton of effort, like, what are some natural circumstances that just help you have better thoughts about like your situation or yourself? Like, and over time, like, create kind of just that ritual to kind of check in with yourself before making decisions and before taking action, and those environments and those people who help support your goals. But again, it's about trusting your sensitivity to where it's not constantly being triggered. So you got to really tune into yourself in order to start doing that inventory. So I've personally been doing this for the last couple of years, but specifically this last year, I have really, really spent a lot of time evaluating how I spend my time and where I'm spending it, what environments I'm in, the people I'm around, and just how my body is naturally reacting. And it's extremely eye-opening. It's so fascinating to watch, because tuning into my emotional experience before and after events has revealed a pattern. Like, the people I feel drawn to are also drawn to me, whereas others, like, they naturally just kind of like fall away. And because I've been able to identify what that feels like internally, like, I am able to identify that so much quicker, which saves a lot of time. It allows me to put that energy and effort somewhere else. And like, yeah, I can absolutely like better identify and align my activities and events that truly support me, rather than me trying to fit into the certain box. So I want to offer a quick little ritual for you to do to kind of help oh my God, I just lost the word. Help harness. There we go. Help harness like this spring energy as you kind of wrap up or dust off these goals that you've had. So first, create a sensory rich space, right? Find a quiet spot, a sunlit spot, someplace that has minimal distractions. And then spend a minute like connecting with nature. You know what? Better yet, spend 10 minutes. Like just 10 minutes outside or feeling the sun, somehow connecting to nature to kind of feel into that new growth. And then after you do that, do a gentle body scan. Take a few minutes and relax and feel into your body. And I really want you to pay attention to the physical sensations as you scan from the top of your head down to your neck and your shoulders and your stomach, your pelvis, your thighs, your knees, your toe, all the way down to your toes, right? And just take note of what you are feeling in your body. And then after you do that, I want you to reflect on your winter and just jot down some notes of what you dreamed or what you planned during the winter. What dreams did you have? What were you daydreaming about as you were waiting for this sunshine to come back into your life? And then I want you to answer these 3 spring awakening questions. Isn't that so fun? Spring awakening. I just love that phrase so hard. So, what feels naturally energizing right now in this moment, in this season of life? What idea is ready to grow? What seed that's been planted either last fall or over the winter, what is ready to start growing? And then what small step feels fun or exciting? If you answer these 3 questions, it can really help you start to build that momentum and really get into the energy, the spring energy, to start taking action. And then the next step is use that sensory visualization, that mental rehearsal. Imagine your goal unfolding slowly and steadily, right? Think of the obstacles you're going to overcome. Think about how it's going to feel as you overcome them, right? Go back to those questions that I asked about mental rehearsal and bring them into play. Practice that in this ceremony, in this ritual. And the next is commit to one small action. Choose one action and then do it within 24 hours. And it's very, very important that you do it within 24 hours because you want to start showing yourself that once you make a commitment, you are committed. You're not just interested, you are committed. So one small step, do it in 24 hours. And then lastly, as part of this ritual, really, I want you to plan for your support. Identify triggers triggers that overwhelm you, right? What are going to be the obstacles that overwhelm you? And then I want you to plan ways to kind of help soothe them. What is your game plan when you are triggered? Right? I mean, there's so many different ways to do that. And I've mentioned them in podcasts, I've mentioned them in blogs. If we've coached, we've gone through that. If you're part of my program, I got the whole anxiety and overwhelm toolkit. So there's lots of ways to do that, but I really I want you to outline kind of what is that self-care plan? What does that plan for support look like? So I also want to know, sometimes even with the best planning, you're going to hit roadblocks. We can't anticipate everything, even though our overthinking brain really wants to. And so some signs that you might need some extra help, it could be persistent self-doubt despite your progress. You could be making progress, but you're having a really hard time celebrating it or getting into that energy. It could be constant overwhelm that just doesn't go away. Or it could just be this repeated start and stop without making much progress. So if you notice those things, I want you to consider HSP friendly coaches or therapists who truly understand what your needs are. That could be a great area of support. And I want you to think about body-centered approaches that honor your feelings and honor your sensitivity and capacities. And then I want you to consider community. Think about community support with others who just kind of get it. And if you are looking for community, I host a monthly community call where you can come and connect with others and get coaching. And it's a great space because people just get it. There's so much relating that goes on in these groups. And the last piece that I'll say on this is structured plans with regular emotional check-ins. So we humans thrive in this balance of structure and freedom. And so if you can structure your plans with a regular emotional check-ins, like that's what helps you create a little bit more freedom. And so I'm currently working with a client, and she isn't quite halfway through my program, but she's been experiencing like huge, significant shifts in kind of how she shows up in social interactions and at work. And in our last session, she mentioned being very surprised at how quickly she's making these changes. And this is just what happens when you have the right support. Like, whomever that may be for you, right? Whether that's a coach, whether that's a therapist, like whatever. But when you have the right support and you have someone that gets you and can help you on your way to your goals and celebrate your progress and point things out that you might not see, like it's huge. It makes such a big difference. So some final thoughts for you. Like, as a highly sensitive person, your natural rhythms are not a flaw. It doesn't always fit in with mainstream society, and that can kind of be a bitch sometimes. It's not what we're programmed to believe. But your rhythm is part of your superpower. And winter may have been this time for deep reflection and dreaming, or hell, just sleeping and napping. Let's be honest. I just want to like veg on the couch during winter. But spring, this time that we're in now, really invites you to let your goals bloom, just like the very first flowers of spring. I love seeing the buds start to come out on like the trees and the flowers. Like it's invigorating. And this is where we want to tie it to our goals, because your heightened awareness really gives you the ability to see these subtle opportunities that others might miss. And so this spring, like I really invite you to kind of reclaim your natural cycles and set goals that honor who you are and what you want. Like, what seed have you held throughout winter that is now ready to sprout? What is ready to go? What dream is ready to break through and reach for that sunshine, reach for that light? Because even though it might not feel it all the time, your sensitivity is your strength. Let your unique light shine and make this spring the beautiful start of this new chapter of taking action. All right, my friends, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here. As always, remember, shining bright gives others permission to shine as well. Take care. Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you want to learn how to tap into the powerful force of nature you know exists within you, head on over to coachwithcam.com and take the Elemental Energy Type quiz. You'll discover more about how your sensitivity isn't a weakness, but rather the place where your strengths come from. And if you enjoyed the show, make sure to follow, rate, and review it on your favorite podcast platform, and share it with a friend or family member who you want to connect with on a deeper level. You'll be helping other sensitive folks like us find and join our amazing community. So let's connect and support each other on this incredible journey.